Man, now I really do kind of sort of have the blues. Coverkillernation here. Of course, you guys know who I am, and you guys know what I do. You guys know what I like, and one thing that I have been guilty of loving throughout my musical career is the progressive music. Now, of course, in my last review, which is the Joe Bonamassa Dust Bowl review, I admitted the fact that I've kind of grown out of love of prog a little bit, because it really seems there's not really been a lot of strength coming out of the genre over the past, say, 14 months or so. I mean, perhaps there's a couple of bands that have kind of wowed some people, but for me, it really has not been the same since the prog-heavy year of 2009. Now, there's a band out there that was supposed to sort of change that, and that band is TesseracT with their debut album, which is entitled One, that was just released this past Tuesday. This is, of course, coming off of their highly successful EP from a year ago entitled Concealing Fate, which had many people extremely excited about what this full-length album could actually give to the world. And that's something that, you know, some sort of hype like this about a new band has not really been spake of for quite some time, at least in this particular realm of the genre, outside of, you know, people who kind of latch onto a band and get a little bit obsessed. This was actually kind of industry-wide. And the reason, of course, for this is because this is a group of musicians that essentially met kind of like what we're doing and sent things through email and kind of used technology to their advantage in order to really create this really great following. And they actually have continued a coined term that it's been around for a little while. However, they're really taking it to the next level, and that's the term of djent, which is a literal automatopoeia for what the sound sounds like. The guitar chugging sounds like. Well, anyways, enough about ridiculous details. Let's just get straight into the music. And I gotta say that whenever I heard about this, whenever I heard the hype surrounding this, it got me very excited because, let's face it, if there's anything that we kind of need here in 2011, it's a Rookie of the Year. It's someone that really kind of wows us. Well, this probably is not going to be it. Now, this is a good record. Don't get me wrong, that One is definitely a solid release. However, I think all of you people, all of you fans that bought the Concealing Fate EP last year, either that or downloaded it or did whatever in order to obtain it, are going to be extremely disappointed with what One has to offer, because it's mainly just the Concealing Fate EP with 5 other tracks. So, let's check One in the negative column for about 6 songs that I've already heard. So what about the 5 songs that I haven't heard? Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm not very impressed with them. Yeah, they do have some pretty good melodies, some pretty good structure to them. The vocals are fairly average, fairly okay. They're able to go from that kind of growly, deathy, you know, traditional style anymore that you see in a lot of prog bands, such as like a Born of Osiris or a Skith, and then into the clean vocals that you are a little bit more used to in a band such as Periphery, which, well, that should be ironic and easy to see, considering, well, yeah, you guys probably know what I'm talking about. But at any rate, for those of you who don't, Periphery is a band who has, well, sort of donated their singer, but not the point. The point of this is actually that these songs kind of drone on a little bit for a little too long and don't really go anywhere. These 5 tracks really don't do much, and that djent is really something that is overly used, overly exaggerated, and kind of played to death on this particular release on the 5 songs that are new for this TesseracT release. Now, Eden, the very final track, is one that I actually kind of dig. It's one that I enjoy, and it seems like this happens once a year where something like this goes down, and, you know, I find maybe one track out of something that's highly touted that's A-okay, but I don't really exactly agree with the hype. However, the hype that I will agree with is the Majesty of the Concealing Fate EP, because it is a great disc. It's a great EP, and here on One, you got yourselves the same flawless production value. It's almost like nothing has been touched, and really, from my ear, whether it be trained or untrained, it seems as though that has really been the case. There doesn't seem to be much of a difference in either polish or in rust on this particular on this particular EP that has been placed onto the One LP. And the problem with this is that it's essentially just been force-fed from one area and one avenue to another, which I kind of understand. I'm going to make this argument. I understand it because essentially a lot of TesseracT's audience, because this is something that is available in stores. A lot of bands do not get to say that. A lot of metal bands, should I say, do not get to say that about their debut release. However, they are, I mean, very highly touted, not to mention they were on a really high-powered record label, which helps because you have the backing power of, you know, advertising dollars. However, there's a lot of people out there that do not have access to the Concealing Fate EP. Well, they do, but they just refuse to use those means. It's not available in a physical copy that's in their hands unless they go through some pretty ridiculous channels. Either that or they just don't know who the band is yet. So this is going to probably be their first exposure. And for what that's worth, they're going to probably really enjoy this record, especially the Concealing Fate 6-song cycle that occurs right smack dab in the middle of it. And for that, that's actually really awesome, and that's something that can be marveled on. However, considering Concealing Fate has been available to us Metalians that have really been keeping up for about a year, well, it's the best part of the release. I mean, that's just it. But if you already have Concealing Fate, what's the point? If you already have Concealing Fate, you get 5 more TesseracT tracks that are, I would say, average at best. However, then you just have the Concealing Fate 6-song structure, cycle, whatever you want to call it, right smack dab in the middle that really will bring up the core score for this particular release as a whole. For people that were not exposed to that, and for people that maybe just don't notice, I don't know how they wouldn't, that was just transposed from one to another, this album's going to seem a lot better than it actually is. But really, whenever you do that, it does kind of bring down the overall score because it's kind of monotonous. I already have this, and the 5 tracks that I've got, you know, that are new, it's not all that much different. It's not great. It's, like I said, it's average at best. That's the best way that I could really... This is the way I'll do this, actually. Concealing Fate, amazing EP. We're going to do this kind of separately. Very well done, extremely well-flowing, freeform, great vocals, excellent progressive melodies. I would give that a 9. However, this release won the 5 songs. The 5 songs that I got off of one that are brand spanking new, I'm going to have to give probably a high 6 to a low 7. Yeah, it's really night and day in this particular release. Now, of course, whenever you average that all together, you get yourself right at a nice little like 7.75 or 8, which is what I'm going to give this album, mainly because the sum of the parts should be equal to the whole, which it kind of is. I'm bothered by doing that, however, because this rehashing, as I mentioned, I understand the purpose behind it. However, as a fan, as somebody who's heard it already, I guess I just sort of wish that the 5 other tracks that I got that surrounded Concealing Fate would have been a little bit better, a little bit stronger. A little bit disappointed, but overall, I have to say that the album is solid. If you've never heard of TesseracT, you should enjoy this if this is your first exposure. So, definitely something to check out, something a little different. So, metal fans, Coverkillernation is out, or am I?